With only months to go before Jamaica concludes its extended fund facility with the International Monetary Fund IMF, Finance Minister Audley Shaw says talks are afoot to extend the multilateral's involvement with Jamaica. More in this report from Peter Gay Coombs.
Jamaica's Finance Minister Audley Shaw updated the lower house of Parliament last week on his recent participation in the 2016 Investor Non-Deal Roadshow in the United States and Europe. The contingent led by the Finance Minister included the Bank of Jamaica Governor Brian Winter, Financial Secretary Devon Rowe, who has since gone on retirement, and Chairman of the Economic Growth Council businessman Michael Lee Chin. The group participated in briefings organized by the island's investment promotions agency JAMPRO. In these sessions, investment banks, insurance companies, pension and hedge fund managers were apprised of Jamaica's economic growth continuity, opportunities, global bonds, attainment of fiscal targets, debt financing programs and policies for the upcoming year. The Jamaican Finance Minister says the investors were assured and impressed by reports of the island's economic stability. He also revealed to those investors that talks are underway with the IMF for the continuation of the island's relationship after the existing 4-year extended fund facility expires in March 2017.
I indicated to them that we actually are at this time discussing with the IMF a future form of engagement. The precise form of that engagement we have not finalized yet. In fact, there is a team from the IMF that will be in the island tomorrow. We will be having discussions with them as to what is the appropriate successor program to follow the present one.
Former Finance Minister, now Opposition spokesman on finance, Dr. Peter Phillips, said he is also in support of the formulation of a successor agreement with the IMF, as the country has targets such as the debt-to-GDP ratio, which has been reduced from some 140% to 126% of GDP, with a further reduction to 65% of GDP targeted within another decade.
Even though we have made substantial gains in terms of fiscal consolidation, debt reduction, we are still in, and I'm certain the minister would agree, and his colleagues will become more and more apprised of the situation as time goes by, but we are still in a very fragile situation because we have obligations even under the current program, but which extend out to 10 years hence.
Meanwhile, Minister Shaw disclosed that he met with members of the Jamaican diaspora in London who conveyed their disenchantment with the lack of authentic local materials for their businesses.
The diaspora is crying out for Jamaican products, but we're not producing enough to satisfy their demand. Some of them are taking raw materials from Africa to produce products and put Jamaica label on it. And none of them is produced and grown in Jamaica. We can do better than this. We have to do better than this.
The Finance Minister shared some of his observations while visiting cities such as Los Angeles, New York and Boston in the United States, as well as London, Frankfurt, Amsterdam and Zurich during the European leg of his non-trade deal investor roadshow.
Every highway I traveled on in Europe, the thing that struck me, there are trees planted everywhere. There's literally a mini forestry around every highway. And I commend that to all of us. I commend it to all of us. It is part of the environmental protection. Many of the waterways in places like Amsterdam and Vienna, these are not natural rivers. These are canals that are constructed. But you know what I saw, Mr. Speaker, that we can learn from? These waterways become a natural zone for the building of highways. So freeways are built beside the waterways to carry traffic and free up the traffic in the cities. And I said to myself, Mr. Speaker, but we have some of those freeways. They're called gullies. in all of the duty-free shops in all of the airports. There is now an explosion of chocolate. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate everywhere. Every form of chocolate that you can conceive of. And yet, Mr. Speaker, 30 years ago, in Jamaica, we supplied the finest cocoa for chocolate in the world. And it is a growing, expanding industry globally, and yet it is a dying industry in Jamaica. Something is wrong. It don't make sense.
Peter Coombs for CEEN Caribbean News.